Alrighty there. Today we're going to be talking about self-myofascial release. Now, what is myofascial release, or what is fascia? Now, every single area of your body is composed of skin, is composed of muscles, of ligaments, of bones, and these muscles and bones are connected. The connection between muscle and bones is through the ligaments, which are this rubbery, stretchy, elastic sort of band connecting points that go through insertions of different areas of the body. Now, muscles, they're all basically interconnected in some way or another. We have agonist muscles, we have antagonist muscles, we have synergists, and we have stabilizers. All of these muscles are connected through fascia, and fascia is like a 3D web that it's like a mucousy, saliva, kind of like sticky like bag that wraps around all of your muscles, and you know, it's covering your entire body, and it connects everything in one way or another. Now, sometimes in our daily lives, because of the repetitive movements that we have, or tension that we put on certain areas of our body, we develop these adhesions or knots in our muscles. Through self-myofascial release with one of these sort of instruments, which is called a foam roller, and there's various other devices or tools that we could use for self-myofascial release. We basically will get on top of these foam rollers and we'll apply pressure to certain areas of the body, which will create something called autogenic inhibition, which we inhibit a muscle, and then a Golgi tendon is something, it's a specific organ of the body that will come and basically release that tension in your muscle. So in essence, just to make it simple, don't get overwhelmed by the terminology that I'm throwing at you, but basically it's like pressing a reset button on your muscle, and you know, wherever that tension is at, through self-myofascial release, it'll kind of release that tension and let the muscle fibers go back to their original state in line. It's like when you look at a piece of meat where you could kind of see the lines of which the lines of the fibers are kind of going. Well, sometimes the lines of those fibers are kind of like knotted up into each other, and then this myofascial release will kind of like unknot it and then straighten out the muscle. So let's go ahead and look at some areas of the body. I'm just going to point them out real quickly so that you can identify them in your workouts. Now, if we look at the front of the body here, the front part of your lower leg extremity, this is called the peroneal muscle, okay? Then here in the back, we got the gastrocnemius and the soleus. The gastrocnemius is like the more exterior part of the lower part of your back, of your leg. Some of you may call it your calf muscle, and the calf muscle is basically made out by the gastrocnemius and the soleus. The gastrocnemius is the more exterior part, and the soleus is beneath it, and that's basically that. Then on the upper extremity of what we would call the thigh muscle, in the outside, we have this is called the TFL, or the tensor fasciae latae. Then here in the front, we have the quad muscles. And then on the inside of your thigh, the inner thigh, as you may call it, is called the adductors. And then on the back, we have the hamstring. Now in the hamstring, you might hear sometimes a stretch that we call the supine bicep femoris stretch, and you'll see this in static stretching, which I'll talk about that later. But there's a muscle here. It's called the bicep femoris, and there's an insertion point that comes in from the top of your butt, where your pelvis is, and then when it gets down to the bottom, it's the short bicep femoris short head. So we have the long head, and then we have the short head. All right. So let's go ahead and start with with some self-myofascial release. Now, some of you can use a mat. You don't need to use a mat. If you don't want to use it, you could just do it on the floor. I do it on the grass. I do it on the concrete ground, depending on where I'm at. I don't want to hurt your knees, but if you want something with cushion, you could do it on a matted floor. But yeah, whatever your liking is, once you get used to it and you kind of understand what you're doing, it's going to be